Today we're going over 5S. You can see I wrote it up here, 5S with a question mark. Some of you may have heard this before, maybe not. It's basically, in layman's terms, a workplace organization way of doing things. It's meant to keep an area safe, clean, and increase productivity at a workplace. A lot of people don't like 5S. If you're a pack rat type person, you're going to hate 5S. It's designed to get rid of stuff you don't use, organize the stuff that you do have, make everything safer and more productive. In my opinion, it works for some areas, and some areas it doesn't. If you're in a fab shop or a job shop and you don't do the same thing every single day, it's very hard to 5S. But what I think you should do is, if you're in that situation, 5S the stuff that you can. Take bits and pieces of the 5S concept and plug it in wherever you think it should fit in for your process. The 5S comes off these 5S words that start with the letter S. That's why they call it 5S. The first one is sort. And I kind of drew an arrow over here to trash, and it's throw stuff out. Don't be a pack rat. Get rid of stuff you don't use or you don't need. That's the first thing you're going to do. Get rid of the stuff you don't need. Then set. So that means place stuff where it should go. If you were out on a lathe, you're going to need a chuck key. You're going to need a spot for that. A lot of places will put like a plastic cutout, and they'll have a spot where it fits right into the plastic cutout, and that's where it goes. And they'll have that right on like a lathe. The stuff you need, have there and have a place for it. Shine. Clean things up. If paint's faded, paint it up. Get it clean and keep it that way. That's down here for sustain. But we're going to go over here to standardize. That means once you have all this stuff in place, make up some rules and make sure whoever's working in that area follows them. You know, make these rules, make sure they follow them, and make sure it happens every day. Then you get the sustain down here, it becomes a habit. It's to habitize it, to make it so that every day you do it, so that it just becomes part of your daily routine. When we go out in the lab here, we're going to pick two areas. Area number one, we're going to go and find somewhere where 5S doesn't really make sense to follow right by the book. But we're going to pick a few things out that can kind of fit the 5S process for an area that doesn't necessarily make sense to follow it right by the book. Area two, we're going to find a really bad area where we can actually 5S something the right way. We'll clean it up, and then we'll do a little reflection of the before and the after of what it looked like. So we'll go out in the lab and we'll try and find these areas here. Before we get into our project here, I just wanted to show you kind of an area in the shop that wouldn't work for 5S, but bits and pieces of it do. And that's just a steel rack here, and you can see there's pipes on one side, tubes on the other, some aluminum, some stainless, a little bit of everything. Getting rid of this stuff wouldn't make sense to me because we're going to use it eventually. Some of the stuff that would make sense, maybe get the aluminum all on one side because it's touching steel and it'll end up breaking down the aluminum. Get your square tubes in one section, get your pipes in one section, get your solid rounds in one section. So this is kind of an area that wouldn't make sense to go right by the book with 5S. But we'll go over here and get into our project. We came out in the lab to find the welding booth that we're going to 5S here, and this is about as bad as it gets. We're going to start right here on the table. We'll move up a little bit so you can see what's going on. For some reason on top of the vent they put a bunch of stick welding rod welded together with some Timbits on top of the vent there. The actual table, if you look on the arm they use to do overhead welding and whatever, you can see it's got tacks all over it. The table itself, tacks all over it. So we'll go to the floor now. Yeah, real good cleanup, huh? So what do we got? There's a pop bottle or a Gatorade bottle, whatever, a bunch of metal, TIG wire, zero cleaning, done upon completion of whatever they were doing here. Or the person just got set up and a bunch of people did it on purpose. So you can see it's relatively a disaster. Stuff everywhere. This is the booth that we're going to 5S. So what we're going to do now is clean it all up and organize everything that needs to be in the booth. We're almost done 5S in this booth. I wanted to show you what we did so far. From head to toe, she is free of tacks and Tim Hortons boxes on top of the vent. Everything is cleaned up properly. That arm had tons of tacks on it. You can see it is now free of tacks. In the back, we welded one pipe back there to put rods or wires in. Down here, there was a couple hooks we already had on there, but we added one more for the pliers there. Chip and hammer, wire brush that every booth should have. Just one of them, nice and clean. Clean up the floor, which was absolutely horrible. The only thing left to do now is you could draw outlines on the outside of these tools so that you know that's the tool that goes there. I'm not going to do that in these booths because they tend to not just have those channel locks. They could have regular pliers or some other sort of plier. So we're not going to do that. But what I'll do is I'll show you another spot in the shop where we had the outlines drawn. And the other thing we have to do still is we're going to come up here on top of that booth. And what we'll do is we'll shut this booth down like we would if we were leaving for the day. We're going to take a picture of it and we're going to hang that up there on the hood there so that there's absolutely no confusion. When you leave, this is what it should look like. For now, we're going to go over here and I'll show you what I mean by the outlines on the wall. Common 5S practice is to have an outline drawn on the back of it so that you know if it's missing. Like right now you see that and it says, hey, something's missing here. So we'll just throw these back on. When you have that outline and you're leaving at the end of the day, you see it, you go, hey, let's go find whatever goes in that spot and put it there so that everything stays cleaned up and put back. So the next shot will be after I get the picture taken and printed out with the booth cleaned up the way it's supposed to be. All right, we just finished 5S'ing this booth. And you can see the last thing we did was put a picture of what it's supposed to look like when you're done. When you leave, make sure the booth looks like this. That way there's no doubt that whoever's in here knows what they're supposed to be doing. So now we'll show you what the booth looks like after we get it all done for the day and what it should look like every day. Just like in the picture, this is what this booth should look like when you leave. And therefore, when you get there in the morning, it should also look like this. Hopefully that gives you a little start on 5S. Thanks for watching and subscribing to TV Weld.
Yeah.